Hello, welcome to this video about the seaweeds of North Ronaldsay. Flying into North Ronaldsay on the 8-seater Briton-Norman Islander plane, we can see that North Ronaldsay, set out in the cool, clean waters of the Atlantic, with 13 miles of mostly rocky shore, is the perfect place for seaweed. There are three main groupings for seaweeds: the reds, the greens, and the browns. The browns contain the most easily identifiable seaweeds and the ones you'll see the most of, so that's what we're going to look at in this video. In North Ronaldsay, and actually in most of Scotland, seaweed is divided into two main types as well. Those are ware and tang. The division depends upon the seaweed's relationship to the tide. Here we see the high tide at West Ness. In the distance stands the Dennis Head Lighthouse. Here's the same view again. The tide is out, revealing a mass of seaweed. The seaweed between the high and low tide is called tang. The seaweeds that grow beyond the low tide are called ware. We only see these seaweeds during the low spring tides or when they get washed up on the beaches. Let's begin by looking at some of the tang seaweed. We'll start at the top of the shore with the channeled rack, also known as Pelvetica canaliculata. It survives drying out by rolling its fronds inward. You can see on the picture here that the rolls form little channels, which is why it's called channeled rack. Here it is growing at Hanging Rock, one of our favourite swimming spots. The rock it's growing on looks like it's covered with an oil slick, but actually that's a species called black tar lichen. In the next zone down below the channeled rack, we find the spiraled rack, Fucus spiralis. You can identify it by where it's growing and that it has quite a strong central vein and that the fronds are slightly twisting. Here we have bladderwrack, Fucus vesiculosus. It has a strong midrib and paired oval air bladders. The bladders are filled with air and make the fronds float, so the seaweed is more exposed to sunlight. When the tide recedes, the seaweed dries out. Further down the shore we find the serrated rack, Fucus serratus. This one is easy to identify as the edges of its fronds look like serrations from a kitchen knife. Now we'll head below the low tide and look at the ware. Here we have the romantically named mermaid's tresses, or Cordophyllum. Here it is growing in a large rock pool by the grey stone. Its fine spaghetti-like fronds can grow up to 8 metres long, and it certainly makes for atmospheric swimming. Sugar kelp, Saccharina latissima, has a distinctive appearance. Its surface is dimpled, and it's really long, like over 1.5 metres. Finally, we come to the most important seaweed for North Ronaldsay. This is tangles, or Laminaria digitata. Its stem, or stipe, is oval in profile, and it's quite bendy. Here it is sticking out of the water during the June spring tide. We get spring tides on the new moon and the full moon, and it means that the tide goes really far out and really far in. Tangles are really important for North Ronaldsay. In the past they were used as fertiliser, just put straight onto the ground. And they were also used in the kelp industry, which was producing chemicals for glass production, and in living memory they've been used for alginate. Becca Moore has produced a video called Tangled. It talks about the history of tangle use on North Ronaldsay. I'll put a link below the video to it. It's well worth watching. The winter storms can be really rough on North Ronaldsay. This winter, the storm was so strong that it mushed up the seaweed, releasing the alginate, causing the sea to foam. The winter storms wash in mounds of tangles. This is great for our sheep because they absolutely love it. I hope you enjoyed this video about the seaweeds of North Ronaldsay. If you're interested in finding out more about seaweeds for yourself, I'd really recommend this book called Seaweeds of Britain and Ireland, put out by Sea Search. It's got great pictures, descriptions, and a little map showing where the seaweed is likely to be found in the UK.